Buckle in, sports fans. You're listening to The William Haynes Show. The program will be starting in just a couple of minutes, so grab your popcorn and get ready to enjoy the show. While you're waiting, make sure you're following us on social media at WHBC Stream and staying tuned to WHBCStream.com. We're so glad to have you today on the program, and we'd love to hear from you. Drop us a line on Twitter or call the show 352-639-0036. And thanks again for tuning in.
HBC. Well, it is a good evening to you, and how you be? William Haynes here, you there, here on this Friday night on the William Haynes Show, as always, live from the WHBC studio in Tallahassee, Florida. Good times in the Tampa Bay area, at least for sports. Tonight it was the Rays collecting win number 34 on the season, 34-18 for them after a 2-1 win over the Baltimore Orioles. We also have a Bucs game to preview on Sunday against the Panthers, where they're 8.5-point favorites, and also Stanley Cup final time. Game 1 between the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Dallas Stars will be on Saturday night, and that series will be a dandy. So we have all that to discuss. And if we have any listeners that are interested in calling on any of those three topics, or really anything sports, we have a line open for you at 877-566-1020 with you for about an hour or so here on this Friday night. Not only will we talk about tonight's Rays win, we'll also preview the three contests that we'll miss, the ones on Saturday and Sunday, and then preview the Monday night contest against the Mets. We'll be on the air after that. It gets started from Citi Field at 7:10. And again, we'll be on the air after the final out. That's usually the plan. I know we are a little behind that here tonight. And also of note, on the monitor, we have the Yankees and Red Sox. That game, I'll tell you the importance in a second, but it's going to the bottom of the 10th. Ryan Weber in Boston was able to hold the Yankees scoreless. I know they did have the Yankees down to their final out in the top of the 9th, and who else but Gary Sanchez with a solo home run to tie the game and ultimately send it to extras. But now all the Red Sox have to do is push that runner at second base home, and then all of a sudden the magic number for the Rays to win the American League East for the first time since 2010 dwindles down to just I want to say 5 or 4. I think they were the magic number going into today for the Rays was 6, and then with the win over the Orioles tonight, that makes it 5, and then again the Yankees lost would push it down to 4. So good stuff there. It looks like in Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals, it'll be the Los Angeles Lakers over the Denver Nuggets. They have about a 20-point lead with about 7 minutes left to play, so we'll keep our eye on that, but it looks like it'll be the Lakers taking Game 1. They said they weren't going to take the Nuggets lightly, and that's what it appears in Game 1. And then again for the Hockey Stanley Cup Final tomorrow night, Tampa Bay Lightning, Dallas Stars. Hopefully, the Lightning can bring home just the second cup in franchise history. 2004, I believe, was the only time they've won it. The first time in the cup final since 2015 when they lost to the Chicago Blackhawks. Hopefully, a little bit better this time around. And again, the number to call, 877-566-1020. Taking your calls. We have a line open for each and every one of you. If you want to pick up the phone and call, we'll certainly take it. But if not, we have a 2-1 Rays victory to discuss. The Rays get on the board early in the first inning. They've been doing a pretty good job of that. The doubleheader yesterday, they scored a run in the second inning, and then in the second game of the doubleheader, we all remember the three-run blast in the top of the first. Yeah, for Willy Adames to get him back on track. He ends up going 0 for 4 tonight. So what does it really mean? I mean, he's a guy, and we talked about it last night. Even when he's in a slump, he's obviously not a slump, but when he's in one, he never gets down on himself, and especially the importance of that is defensively. He always plays a great shortstop, even when the bat is not going. He's always got the smile on his face, even in a night where he bats 8th and goes 0 for 4 with a strikeout. His average now is just under 260 as we really come down the stretch of the final couple of games of the season. It is just 8 games remaining for the Rays, and again with a magic number of hopefully 4. It's JD Martinez in the bottom of the 10th, standing at second base for Boston. So we'll let you know how that game wraps up. And really, I guess I should have led the show with this, and I'm going to go ahead and talk about this before we dive too deep into tonight's win, because I think it's a lot more important. We talked about, we didn't know the diagnoses, but Austin Meadows now goes on the injured list with an oblique strain. It's a grade 2, which I assume is worse than a grade 1. And the quote from Kevin Cash is, "We're going to have to play really, really well to see him at any point the rest of the season." And you really take that to mean we're probably talking about American League Championship Series or the World Series into deep October. That's going to be how long it'll take Meadows to get back. It was during a big swing that he took in the second inning of Game 1 that they take him out, and I sat here on last night's show saying that it was probably just a precautionary matter. You know, if he tweaks something, take him out of the game. It is clinching night potentially, but no need to have him out there. You need him for October. No, it was much more serious. He goes on the 10-day IL again with a grade 2 oblique strain, and I think that's where kind of the roster flexibility comes into play. We've been talking about the log jam in the outfield. We've talked a little bit in the last couple of weeks how we're not really happy with what Hunter Renfroe is giving us, but now all of a sudden he comes back into the mix. Randy Arozarena, who is having a rough time though, he started I believe in left field tonight, taking over for Meadows there. They also have Brett Phillips, who they picked up in a trade near the trade deadline, and he picked up his first hit as a Ray last night. Kind of reminds me of a Johnny Davis type, if you remember last year. I believe the September 15th deadline for to have guys in the roster for playoff time. They signed Johnny Davis, I believe, who had never played in a major league game. He was in the Mexican League. And he hits a triple, I believe, in his first game with the Rays, and they had him on basically as a kind of a pinch runner type for the playoffs. They never use him in that regard, but I would imagine, especially now with the Meadows injury, Brett Phillips is going to be a guy that makes that roster, and it makes sense as far as kind of a replacement. I'm not necessarily saying Phillips and Meadows are the same player, but they're both outfielders. They're both good defensively, and they're both left-handed bats, which come into play as well, because sometimes you do want to mix up those righty-lefties, and I think that's another part of the flexibility they have in the outfield. You look at the righties, and right now it's really Arozarena, Margot, and Renfroe, and then you look at the lefties, and you've got Setsuga, who occasionally can play the outfield, although I think they would want to stray away from that come playoff time. But then you have Brett Phillips and Kevin Kiermaier as the two pure lefty outfielders now with Meadows out of the picture. So they are going to have options, but we all know it's going to hurt not having Meadows in there, especially in a 3-game series where it really is going to be a crapshoot. If they play the Blue Jays or the Indians, we don't know who it's going to be yet. We talked about on last night's show how maybe they would match up against either of those teams. We've seen them against Toronto. We have not seen them against Cleveland. But you think maybe the Indians would have something up their sleeve. They've got the good pitching. They'll probably have the American League Cy Young winner in Shane Bieber. And we know with the bullpen, and they've got the power bat bats at the wazoo. Frankie Lindor, one of the best players in the American League. So they're all going to be tough outs. Make no mistake about it. With the Chicago White Sox loss for them today against the Reds, the Rays now jump into first place in the American League. So it looks like if they can hold on, they'll be playing the second wild card, which again is either looks like going to be the Blue Jays or the Indians. So we'll have to wait and see. But I did want to do a little bit more of a deep dive on Austin Meadows and kind of what that really means, because of course, and I also want to mention Cody Reed with the left pinky irritation. He's on the 45-day IL, ending his season. He only made 2 appearances, but he did look pretty good, especially a lefty thrower, kind of a potential Alvarado replacement for playoffs. That hurts to see him down. They bring up Sean Gilmartin. Not, if you ask me, not a guy that's going to make the postseason roster, but honestly, who knows for sure? We'll have to wait and see. We look at Austin Meadows. Not having such a great year this year, but we look back to his season a year ago where he bats .291. He hit 33 home runs, which looking back is really just kind of insane. Knocks in 89 runs, and really just was doing all kinds of stuff. If you recall, in opening day last year, he led the whole season off with a home run. So all of that good stuff. He was the American League Player of the Month, I think, once or twice, and he was in there, the conversation for AL MVP in there for a while. And then this year, we know with the COVID stuff, he was not on the active roster to start. During summer camp, he got the positive COVID, and he actually had a pretty rough bout of it. Him and his wife both had a pretty rough go of trying to get rid of it. And so he was able to come back. With the Rays, you never think that they rush anybody back. And he actually did kind of start off a little bit hot when he came back and then really cooled off. In 36 games played, he racked up 132 at-bats and hit for a .205 average. That was 4 home runs, 13 runs knocked in. So really hard to say about that. He had more walks than home runs, 17 walks, he had more walks than RBIs, 13 walks. 17 walks, 13 RBIs. I'm getting all kinds of mixed up. And an on-base percentage of under 300, just a mark of 296. And a WAR, if you're interested in that, of 0.0 in comparison to a season last year of 3.8. So the tale of 2 seasons for Meadows. And you know, I think with him, come playoff time, you kind of throw some of that stuff out of the window. Because of how really your whole lineup, when he's kind of at his best, revolves around him. He is kind of the Rays' de facto leadoff hitter. We know what they can do with the experimentation and messing with the righty-lefty stuff. But more times than not, especially in October, it was Austin Meadows that was slated in to be that leadoff hitter. And now with him out, you know, that's something the Rays are going to have to figure out. And Kevin Cash had mentioned that, you know, it's a good thing that they clinched the playoffs last night. They're going to have a pretty good chance at clinching the American League East, and who knows if it really matters if they have the number 1 seed or not. I'm sure that they want it, but not necessarily matters as much as the division. But now they get to kind of play around with who they want as a leadoff guy. We talked about it last night. Yoshi Tsutsugo, a guy who routinely hit leadoff in the Japan League. They messed around with it a little bit in summer camp in the scrimmages, and then Cash said we don't really see him as a leadoff hitter. But then last night he hit leadoff, and here he did tonight as well, and actually picked up a couple of hits. One of the better games I would say he's had in a while. It goes 2 for 5, scores a run, no walks, 2 strikeouts. His average now sits at exactly 200, an on base of 314. So he does do a pretty decent job of working the walks. I'm not quite sure that I like him in that role, but they're going to give him that opportunity, as the Rays always do. They're going to give him the chance to prove himself. I mean, a guy like Brett Phillips, I don't necessarily see him starting. I think they would rather have a Rosarena out there. Some of that might depend on the righty-lefty split. And Margot's going to play a role in that as well. So I'm talking mainly candidates for the leadoff role. Brett Phillips, more the conventional type with the speed, but we haven't seen as much with the bat and the on-base percentage. Margot is a guy who reaches base a ton and is also lethal on the base path, is up towards the top of the majors. I want to say top 3 in terms of stolen bases, and also has been efficient in doing so. I think has made over 80% of his stolen base attempts. So that would be a great candidate for a leadoff hitter. None of them are going to be as good as Meadows, but now you kind of have to work with what you can get. And, you know, other guys in the lineup, we look at who hit tonight. Rosarena is a guy who's already led off. Brasso is a candidate to do so. But that's about it. And again, they're going to toy with that a little bit in the righty-lefties, and we know how different the Rays play things in the regular season compared to the postseason. I think most notably kind of how they handle the pitchers, but I did pull up all the lineup cards for the 6 postseason games that the Rays played last year to just get an idea of maybe where they'd be thinking. In the wild card round, we remember it was Yandy Diaz to lead off. He went 3 for 4, and we know the 2 home runs, including the one to lead off the whole game that kind of set the tone. And then Austin Meadows did bat third in that game. He goes 0 for 3, but that's not necessarily much as important. But they had him batting towards the top of the lineup. They out for the power righty, I believe, against the lefty Manaea. In game 1 of the ALDS against Houston, they faced Verlander. It was Meadows to lead off that day. He goes 1 for 2 and works 2 walks. They lost 6-2 in that game, but he was kind of a crucial part of when the lineup was getting on base. Game 2, it was Yandy Diaz to lead off against Garrett Cole, but then Austin Meadows batted second. So you see the common theme. He's at the top of the order. Game 3, back in the Trop, it was Yandy Diaz to lead off again, and then once again, Austin Meadows hitting second in the order. Game 4, Austin Meadows leads off, and Game 5, it was also Austin Meadows leading off. So you saw that was going to be their plan. Especially in the postseason, it seems like you face, and most of the aces just tend to be right-handed starters, so having the lefty of Meadows there in the leadoff spot certainly helps. But you look at how he hit in the leadoff spot, and he didn't necessarily do good statistically. He goes 1 for 2 with the 2 walks. In one game he leads off. The other time he leads off in game 4, he goes 0 for 5. And then in Game 5, he also leads off. He goes 0 for 4. So maybe some experimentation will end up working out, but they certainly don't have the roster they did a season ago. They may not have a healthy Yandy Diaz, which certainly comes into play, but I think he's going to be okay. Even on the night that he injured it in Yankee Stadium, he had kind of expressed that it felt fine. He didn't even think he needed to go on the injured list. And then Kevin Cash and all those guys making the smart move to just put him on the shelf because you don't need him right now. You have plenty of guys that can play third base and things like that. So they're fine in that department, but we saw how valuable he was to them in the postseason. Who knows how that wild card would have gone without him in the lineup. And, Tommy Pham is gone. He's a guy that's at the top of the order. Travis d'Arnaud, Avisel Garcia. So it is a much different lineup. I think this year's lineup is a lot better of getting on base and on the base path, a lot more speed. I think last year's team was better in terms of maybe getting the big hit, including the home run. So they're going to have to play to their strengths, and that certainly hurts them. Not having Meadows in that department. And for what it's worth, his postseason batting average, he's only played in the postseason in 2019. He played 6 games in 23 at-bats. He hit for a 130 average, 3 walks, 3 runs batted in, and only 3 hits. So the production wasn't necessarily there. Who's to say how it would have gone this year? He was only batting .205, so that didn't have you loving how you felt about him. But I think it's obvious and it's clear that the first reaction to hearing him being out is a negative one. I think the lineup is worse without him in it. And when he's at his best, even if he goes 0 for 4 with a couple of strikeouts, and I talk about this a couple of times over the course of the year, having him set the tone at the top of the order is such a big deal, even when you don't get a hit. And kind of the smarter baseball minds, could put it potentially better than I can. But when you work a good at-bat to lead off the game, even if you don't get on base, you're making the starting pitcher challenge you and not able to kind of get settled in. He's got to really throw his best stuff at you. Not only does that kind of get his feathers ruffled a little bit, but it allows the other 2 hitters, or potentially 3 that come up in that inning, to get a good look at what kind of pitches they're going to be seeing, and kind of gets them eased into the game. So, and especially come playoff time, those little things can make the difference in a game and what ends up making the difference in a season. So, you look at that batting average in the postseason, not necessarily indicative, although I can tell you he did have some ugly at-bats in those 2 times against Cole, but then again, so did really the 1 through 9 in the order. Cole basically tore him apart, and in that respect, you kind of hope that they can face off against him this year, just because of how good they've been against him in the regular season, but that's something we'll have to, a bridge that we'll have to cross kind of when we get to it. And again, I'll throw in some of those candidates maybe to hit leadoff. And I think when we look at the lineup cards over the course of the next 8 games, that's going to be the first thing you look at. I mean, it always is anyway, just because of kind of the order of it, obviously. But as far as getting ready for playoff time, and I keep saying that, it's not necessarily about winning games now. It's how you set yourself up for the playoffs. That's going to be a big thing. They're not necessarily playing to win in some regards. They're going to kind of go unconventional. I mean, we've seen guys like G-Man Choi lead off occasionally. And another point about Meadows and how much value he can lead off. I remember in 2018, before Meadows had come up, they got him at midseason, but he had played in Durham for most of that year after coming to Tampa Bay. It was Kevin Kiermaier that led off, and we know he has the occasional pop in the bat and he can steal a base, but when it comes to being a leadoff hitter, too many times he would just strike out in 3 pitches, a non-competitive at-bat. Not only did it let the starting pitcher get eased into the game, but the guys coming up behind him didn't really get to see any good pitches because Kiermaier would just whiff at everything. So, and obviously he's not going to be your leadoff hitter going forward, but they're going to have to find someone that can work good at bats. Yandy Diaz, a guy who has walked a ton, and a guy that's on the shelf, but we would imagine would be ready come playoff time. That kind of reminds you really to what happened last year. He was on the shelf for so long, and he came up and played that last series in Toronto after the team was hung over for the Saturday and Sunday games. But I believe had a double and also gone on base a couple of times, and that put enough confidence in Cash to put him in the playoffs. We're going to go to the phones now, and we have Sebastian calling in from Canada. Sebastian, you're on the William Haynes Show. How's it going?
Hi, I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Doing good, thanks. How you feeling about the Rays right now?
Feeling kind of conflicted, to be honest. Definitely good to get the win today, and it's nice to see the defense playing the way that they should be playing. Making the tough outs and not making silly errors like we kind of tend to do sometimes, especially in the closer games. But I just feel like there's kind of like this common theme where we're having a lot of trouble sort of scoring runs and getting the hits when it counts, and I just can't help but feel that this might be one of our biggest detriments going into the postseason.
I agree with you 1,000%, and I really couldn't say it enough times. Really, for the rest of the year, tonight they go 2 for 7 with runners in scoring position. They leave a total of 10 men on base, and like you said, it seems like every time they lose or they win close like that, it's that's holding them back. It's not like they can't get runners on like there was at times last year. It seems like they have more base runners than anyone in Major League Baseball, but they can't move them over. And I think it's hard to kind of pin down maybe what that is, but also, like you said, the situational hitting certainly hasn't been there. And you're right, that is a huge concern going into playoff time because when you face an ace like Cole and Verlander like they did last year and you can't move runners over, you're going to be in a really tough spot.
Yeah, and like to give the Orioles credit, I think they played. I didn't physically watch the game; I had to listen to the radio cast. But they put some good at bats against Glasnow, and they basically gave us good competition today. So we got to give them credit for that. Like I think they got Glasnow up to like 50 pitches after 2 innings, which is pretty good if you're the Orioles. That's exactly what you want to do, but. I can't help but feel like we got kind of lucky today because we did sort of catch a couple breaks. For example, I think it was in the second inning we had that bases loaded situation where for some reason they stopped the runner at third instead of sending him home. And like I said, I didn't watch it, so I don't know how close it would have been, but it seemed to be like everybody was confused about why he didn't go home. Like he could have probably made it. I don't know. So, I mean, I guess, sometimes we get unlucky with little plays like that. Today it seemed to have gone our way, so we can't really complain too much. But it's definitely, raises some alarms. But hopefully in the postseason, Cash can sort of, come up with some unique ways of managing the team to sort of address those issues.
Yeah, it seems like he's always got something up his sleeve in big games, and I think about the Orioles, I didn't see that specific play either, but that kind of points to why the Orioles are a 22-30 team is they make mistakes like that, and that's kind of what causes a Rays fan to bang their heads against the walls when they have when they get swept in Baltimore earlier this year, or they have a tough time against the Nationals. If you can't beat a team that's beating themselves, how are you going to beat one of the best teams in the playoffs? So the Rays take advantage of mistakes tonight. They're not going to get as many come playoff time, and I think that's gonna put pressure on them to hit with runners in scoring position, something that they have proved that they have not been able to do this year.
That's right, yeah. And I think to get to your point that you mentioned about how it seems like last year our problem was getting runners on base, which is very frustrating. This year it seems to be getting the runners home, which is, I don't know what's more frustrating, one way or the other. But yeah, it's just something, I guess, that, you know, it could just be a small tweak that they just haven't figured out yet, or I don't know.
Yeah, they've mixed the lineup up every way you can shake it. I mean, they've had guys like Adames bat 8th, 9th, but then they put him in the cleanup spot. Cash, we've seen at times, especially when they were losing in early August, Cash, it seemed like it was a totally different lineup every day, and that was just to shake it up because, and I think the catcher position was a big part of that earlier with Zunino and not being able to have that. I think a big part of it is to have guys that can hit 1 through 9, and I think the Rays at times don't necessarily have that, so that's a big part of it. The strikeouts have been huge. That's a big part of it too. Guys, whatever with the bat, just can't find a rhythm. So maybe, you know, right now Cash picks the guys that he knows are going to play in October, and you give them everyday playing time to maybe get them in the best rhythm possible. That's really the only thing that I can think of that Cash can really do that's in his control.
Yeah, and another thing I wanted to ask, you wouldn't happen to know how Brasso's at bats have been going. Like, I know he's batting like 301 or something, but he seems to be getting a little bit more consistent playing time, especially now that Yandy's on the DL, so he's been getting the start at third base, and we've seen him even at second base as well to give Lau the day off. But I was wondering what you think about Brasso as potentially being up in the lineup, like even leadoff or second, because he seems to put up some pretty good at bats, and even when he doesn't get any hits, he seems to, like, you know, get some foul balls and sort of, he seems to have a pretty good eye. I was just wondering what your thoughts on that were.
Yeah, I would have to maybe look up and see the pitches faced per at bat, because I think that would be a great stat to look at to maybe find that leadoff hitter. Certainly that's something they could do. I'm looking at his recent stats. There was a time where he was batting upwards of 350, and he's kind of been on a bit of a slump since then. And another thing that pops out to me as the game log, he doesn't work a lot of walks. Me personally, you know, if a guy like Yandy Diaz is ready to come off, and I think he probably is, they just want to be safe about it. He's a guy that was up at the top of the majors in walks. Kind of when he went on, Yoshi, even though it seems like he's not quite caught up to major league pitching, it seems like he's still able to get on base via the walk. I would rather see a guy like that, but like you said, there is kind of credit to a guy in Brasso. Even when he goes 0 for 4, it seems like he's a tough out every single time, and he's got the decent speed. So, yeah, I think maybe Brasso would be an option, and you may see him there in the leadoff spot over the next week and a half or so to maybe just test that out.
Yeah, and I guess the other kind of positive from the game was Sheriff with his first save. I don't exactly know what the total is, pitchers from the Rays pitching staff that have a save this season, but I think the Andy and Dave are saying that they've tied a franchise record, and they're just one more away from an MLB record. So that's kind of nice. Again, pointing to the versatility of that pitching staff, and you know, despite all the injuries that we've had to the bullpen, it's nice to see those kind of things still happening, because it shows how deep. Just how deep the organization really is, and we can cover up those holes when they do arise. So, you know, I thought that was kind of nice to see him get that save as well.
Absolutely, and that is kind of crazy if they're just one more player recording a save from a major league record. I mean, this is only 106, or this is only a 60-game season compared to what teams do in a 162, and that just shows, we knew going into this year it was going to be who had the deepest kind of system, especially with the pitchers, and everyone kind of knew that the Rays had that, and they've been able to prove it. I think another part that's allowed some of these guys to record saves, it seems like Nick Anderson getting huge outs in the 7th and 8th inning, they pretty much bring him on to face the top of the order late in the game instead of just slotting him in for the 9th, and that's what Anderson did tonight. He got the top of the order out in the 8th, and then he turned it into a guy like Sheriff, who's not he's not nearly as good as Anderson, but he can get those 5, 6, 7 hitters in the lineup that just happens to be in the 9th inning and get the save. So I think that's a huge part of it as well.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting point, because I was thinking when I was listening to the game, I was thinking, why is Anderson coming in the 8th inning versus, kind of saving him for the 9th? Because I knew at the time Anderson's not going to be coming in for 2 innings for sure. So I was actually wondering why he was coming in earlier, but yeah, that makes a lot of sense. They put him in to face, the tougher bats, and then kind of be able to hand the ball off to one of the other guys for, it's still pretty high leverage, but not as high, where they can just get, the more lower down the batting lineup. So that's pretty cool that you brought it up, because I hadn't actually thought of that at the time.
Yeah, I think that's really been the genius of what Kevin Cash has done as the manager of the Rays. He's pretty much flipped everything that we thought we knew about baseball on its head, not just with the opener and what it means to be a starting pitcher and how you manage a bullpen, but I think this year, and he wouldn't have been doing it without Nick Anderson. The fact that Nick Anderson kind of came into his lap as a guy that seems like if you bring him on for an inning, he'll strike out the side. That's pretty much, he's automatic outs. And I think you realize, like you just said, the highest leverage spot in that game was in the 8th inning. It just happened to not be as this for the save, but you face the better hitters, and because you don't want Sheriff facing those hitters, even though it's in the 8th, so you kind of go against conventional sense. But it certainly worked for him, and something they talk about all the time on the radio broadcast and stuff is buy-in as well. Because if you're a guy like Anderson and you're really one of the best relievers in the major leagues, you want those saves so you can get paid. But you listen to Nick Anderson in the interview room, and he's like, "Oh, I don't care. I don't know how many saves I have. I'm just out there to get guys out." So I think they really just have the perfect roster compiled, top to bottom. Everyone in that organization just runs it so great. And yeah, I love how they've done with Anderson, and it's opened up all those newbies in the bullpen to shine in those spots, especially in the 9th this year.
Yeah, and you almost kind of need guys like that, like Anderson, where it's not, they're not thinking about their statistics, they're thinking about the team, right? And I can't remember, there was another situation recently that came up that Dave and Andy were talking about, Kevin Cash, pulling something crazy like that, and the players were just like, yeah, we just have complete faith in him. And if it's for the good of the team, we'll do it. Like it's not a one person show kind of thing. So it's really cool that that the organization is that tight to where they're really one big unit instead of a bunch of like individual pieces.
Yeah, and that's what kind of allows them to beat those teams that, even though they have a payroll 3 times the size of the Rays, like a Yankees lineup, just like you said. I don't necessarily want to name names, but like guys on the Yankees, you're right, it is kind of individual. They all want to get their stats. They all want to be the one to win the game. For the Rays, they only take solace in team wins, and that's what they're out there for. And I think in that respect, you really like their chances in October, because they do. They just play so well as a team.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much all I had to say. Again, good to get the win. And you are right. We were 6 games going into today, 5 games with the win. So I don't even know if the Boston Yankees game is still going or not, but would be nice to see Boston take that win so we can go down to 4. And then hopefully we could even clinch the division by early next week if all goes to plan.
Absolutely, yeah. It looks like the Yankees are probably going to keep winning. I think they've won 7 straight, but yeah, the Rays control their own destiny. If they keep winning, they'll get that. So, Sebastian, thank you so much for the call. It was a great one tonight.
No problem. Have a good night.
You too. All right, and there we go, Sebastian in Canada. As always, an absolute great call from him. Again, if you're listening, Sebastian, thank you again. At 11:49, we're going to take a break here on the William Haynes Show. When we return, we'll tell you everything you need to know about tonight's Rays 2-1 win. We'll also give you a prediction about the Bucs Week 2 against the Panthers and the rest of NFL Week 2 picks against the spread. During the break, if you want to call us, the number to do so is 877-566-1020. At WHBC Stream is the Twitter if you want to reach us on there as well. So a 2020 sports update will give you some baseball scores, and when we return, talk more about tonight's Rays win. HBC. Most games in MLB action have already gone final. The Cubs 1-0 over the Twins. In a game in a doubleheader, it was the Marlins 14-3 over the Nationals. The Brewers 9, Royals 5. The Diamondbacks 6-3 over the Astros. The Dodgers 15-6 over the Rockies as they get closer to clinching the NL West. That was now win number 37 for them. In a doubleheader game, the Cardinals 7-2 over the Pirates. The Rays 2-1 over the Orioles. In a doubleheader game, the Phillies 8-7 over the Blue Jays. The Braves 15-2 over the Mets. The Indians 1, Tigers 0. The Reds 7-1 over the White Sox. In the other game in the doubleheader, it was the Nationals 5-0 over the Marlins. The other doubleheader game in Buffalo, it was the Phillies 7-0 over the Blue Jays. The Cardinals 6-5 over the Pirates. And now some current action on the West Coast. We'll actually start on the East Coast in the top of the 11th. It's the Yankees 5-4 over the Red Sox. In the 8th, Angels 4, Rangers 2. In the 7th, it's the Athletics 6-0 over the Giants. And in the 7th inning, it's the Padres 5-0 over the Mariners. Number to call during the break, 877-566-1020. We'll be right back.
Hey, sports fans. William's currently in the can, but he'll be right back. We're currently on a commercial break, so don't touch that dial. Remember, you can call us at 352-639-0036 or drop us a line on Twitter at WHBC Stream to tell us what's on your mind. We want to talk sports. We want to get unruly. We want you to tell us what you think so we can argue. Anyway, when all that's said and done, please stay tuned for William's world-famous Around the XFL podcast and other projects that he's currently got in the works. Please visit WHBCstream.com, and thanks again for listening in.
Sports Radio 101.9 FM. Sports Radio 66. Sports Radio
HBC. And at 11:53, we are back on the William Haynes Show. Final 30 minutes or so of the program. Number to call and get on the show. You want to talk Rays, Bucs, Lightning, whatever. 877-566-1020 with you until about, who knows, maybe 12:30 or so. Call it William Haynes After Dark as we trudge into the Saturday morning, about 7 minutes away from it. On the East Coast, on the monitor, we have the Yankees 5-4 over the Red Sox in the 11th, and with no outs, the Red Sox get the tying run over to third base on, what do you know, probably a pass ball from Gary Sanchez. It is a wild pitch from Loaizaga, but it did get past Sanchez. So That game may go deep into the night, into the morning. So who knows? The importance behind that, the Rays' magic number to win the division, I keep getting it confused. I believe it is 5 right now, and if the Red Sox beat the Yankees, it would dwindle down to 4. So the Rays are really getting close. They can almost taste it. Their first division title since 2010. They've only had 2 in franchise history. Of course, the other coming in 2008. So it's a little different this year. The Yankees will still make the playoffs, but I think it is huge. And some of maybe the non-baseball strategy ways is just to hang the banner, and have it in the program, and the fans talking about it. It's huge to win the division, so hopefully they'll be able to do so, and the Red Sox do knock in the run. So it is now retied at 5 in the bottom of the 11th. So we'll leave all that to be. We'll just come back to you when that game goes final, if it ever does. Wanted to talk more about the Rays 2-1 win over the Orioles. Tyler Glasnow, the pitch count was basically, it got inflated through 2 innings. He threw 50 pitches and then was able to kind of even get sharper as the start went on, and that's something that he's been so good at. Those starts where he goes 6 or 7 innings, it seems like he almost gets better as the start goes on. It always feels like he throws 20 pitches or so in the first inning, and that the lineup the first time through kind of knocks him around a little bit, but then the second and third time through, it seems like he's got a better plan of attack, and his fastball is working a little better. The curveball seems like it has some more bite, and he can really challenge anybody. And he goes 5 innings of just a run, like Sebastian had mentioned. The Orioles did have a bases-loaded situation, I think, in the second inning, and I didn't see the play, but as he described, it was probably a play where the runner from third probably could have gone home. For whatever reason, they decided to have him stay. It kind of makes sense usually like that. They would have been down 1-0 at that point, bases loaded. You want to keep the chain moving. You don't want to have a guy thrown out at the plate. You'd rather just bring up the next guy. Necessarily doesn't work against Glasnow, but I guess maybe that's the conventional knowledge that Baltimore wanted to go with. And as I mentioned, the Orioles are 22-30 for a reason. They make those kind of mistakes, and you have to take advantage of it. They did, and he was able to get out of it, so that's good. He gets win number 4 in the season, does Glasnow, 4-1. Also 10 strikeouts, so he gets to double digits in that regard. The former Ray, seeing him for the second time this year, Alex Cobb gets the loss in 6 innings of just 2-run balls, so he gave them a pretty good start, did Alex Cobb. And it was Ryan Sheriff recording his first save for the Rays. I think they've got to be at double digits as far as relievers that have recorded a save. And as Sebastian mentioned, they're 1 away from tying the Major League record, and that would have been set in a 162-game season. The Rays have played, at this point, about 50 games. That is so bizarre. 52 games, I believe. And that just, the COVID obviously such a huge part of it. All the relievers go down, and all of a sudden, it's guys like, Sean Gilmartin and Cody Allen and Ryan Sheriff, Ryan Thompson. I could go on and on with the list. But it's just really a great thing to see guys step up in big spots. And as I mentioned, Nick Anderson has been such a huge part of that. If Cash going against the conventional, wisdom of what it means to be a closer and what it means to have a safe situation. The Rays are up 2-1 in the 8th inning. But it's the top of the lineup for the O's. So they bring out their highest leverage reliever, Nick Anderson, who's only going to pitch an inning to have him in the 8th to face the top hitters. And then you leave it on a silver platter, the save for Ryan Sheriff. All he has got to do is get the bottom of the order against a really crummy Orioles team out, and he gets his first save. It's got to be maybe in his Major League career. I know he hasn't played prior to this season since 2017, so... what a good moment for him that is as well. And it looks like, I keep getting confused with the monitor. It looks like the Red Sox walked it off, but no, they just moved the runners up. They have one 90 feet away with no outs, it looks like, or they keep changing it. I'll leave it until it goes final. It keeps distracting me. So Sheriff gets his save, and again, Glasnow 4-1 now with the win. 4 innings pitched, an earned run on 4 hits. 2 walks, which, okay, not bad. 10 strikeouts. The pitch count to strike ratio got better, I think, as the game went on. As I kind of said, he seems like he gets sharper over the course of his start. 95 pitches thrown, 64 for strikes. He faced 21 batters and threw first pitch strike to 10 of them. So a guy that's pretty much just a fastball, curveball pitcher with an occasional changeup. He's got to be better than that. Blake Snell, we know will be like that pretty much every start, and we know because he wants to strike everyone out, and he's got 4 A+ pitches. He doesn't want to throw guys strikes, fine. But Glasnow with a fastball that hit 100 miles an hour, you need to be challenging hitters, especially on the first pitch of the count, a little bit better than that. It's fine because who's going to touch that fastball anyway? But I think that's even more to the fact that just put it in the zone because they can't touch it. Only 4 hits. Did have a bases loaded jam. It was kind of some weird plays along the infield. I was glancing at it. I wasn't glued to the TV the whole game, but I got a good idea of what was going on. For the lineup, guys, Yoshi leads off. He gets 2 hits, 2 for 5. One of the better games he's had in a while. Rosarena 0 for 5 in the 2-hole. That's not good to see. He's slumping a bit as of late. And I think really, really good news. Brandon Lau, I think, is back to himself. Hit the game-tying home run in the 9th, down to the final strike a couple of days ago. 2 for 4 tonight. Scores a run, knocks in a run. And that looks like it would have been a home run, which, no, he had an RBI single. So no home runs for him tonight. His average is now up to basically 270 and an on-base percentage of 365. So a little bit closer to the Brandon Lau that we knew in August and during last year. That's a huge part of it. He's not a guy that's going to replace Meadows in the leadoff spot, but he probably will be your number 2 or number 3 hitter come playoff time. Brasso 0 for 3, did work a walk, so that's good to see. Nate Lowe gets a hit as well, does work a walk. And then after that, a lot of offers. Margot 0 for 3, Renfroe 0 for 3 with 2 Ks, so that was not good. And then Adames 0 for 4, kind of the letdown after the game yesterday. I don't necessarily get that as much. And then Michael Perez 0 for 2, but does work 2 walks. So catcher position is certainly going to be interesting to see how they play that. And some of these conversations should just be had in about a week from now. Zunino is going to come back in a couple of days, it looks like. So I don't know exactly where he fits into the mix. Obviously, the conventional wisdom would tell you want the defensive catcher behind the dish. They had him active in last year's postseason, but opt to go for the hot bat of d'Arnaud. The Rays don't have anyone like that this year, of course. They've got really just the righty Kevin Smith, the lefty Michael Perez. I would like to see Perez. He seems like he's done fine defensively, but I think they'd probably rather have Zunino. And I don't know if Morton potentially feels better throwing to Zunino. If the Rays don't operate on that basis of having personal catchers and things like that. Again, like we said earlier, they just play so well with the team as a team. The puzzle pieces fit all together. We don't have any prima donnas that will only throw to a specific catcher like maybe the Yankees do. But for all those little things, and I think it goes unnoticed a little too much. Kevin Cash, as a player in the major leagues, was a catcher, and those tend to make the best managers, it seems like, but he knows how important it is. Not as much offensively because he wasn't a good offensive catcher, but how much it means to be able to call a game and be a good backstop, all those kind of things. And that's the reason I think that they've held on and given Zunino so many chances, is because Kevin Cash sees the value in the little things in being a catcher. So enough of all that. Now just a quick recap of the game. The way the lineup, or I'm sorry, the way the defensive lineup was ordered in the outfield from left to right, it was a Rosarena in left, Margot in center. It was just an off day for Kiermaier, just wanting to keep him fresh, of course. And in right field, Hunter Renfroe. So finally good to see him getting some regular playing time. This is a great opportunity to give him that chance. And in the infield from third to first, Brasso at third. It was Adames at shortstop, Lau at second base, Nate Lowe at first. Michael Perez did the catching. Yoshi was the DH, and he did lead off, or was Reyna batted second. Lau third. Brasso did the cleanup hitting, followed by Lowe, Margot, and then a bottom three of Renfroe, Adames, and Perez. So I did kind of like the way the lineup was structured. They're trying to go out to lead off Again, something he did in the Japan League, something I guess maybe he's comfortable doing. It seems like he works pretty good at bats. No walks tonight, but he does seem to do that pretty well. His on-base percentage is 114 points higher than his average, to give you an idea. A 314 OBP and a 200 average, so the walks play a big part in his game. Didn't love seeing Arozarena go 0 for 5 tonight. He's been in a bit of a slump after just such a red-hot start, which makes sense. The scouting report, I guess, went around on him, and whatever his weakness is, I can't exactly tell you. But good to see Lau back again. And then everything else, just a lot of guys that couldn't collect a hit. But, some of those guys aren't probably going to play a lot in the postseason. Margot, I don't imagine, is going to start a lot. Renfroe either. And Adames, the bat doesn't as much matter as what he gives you defensively. So, I guess we'll touch on, we'll do the inning by inning, and then we'll head to some more of the NFL stuff. Top of the first against Alex Cobb. They do scratch a run out in the first inning, so good to see them score early. Setsugo strikes out, Arozarena grounds out, but then the two-out Rays strike again, as they always do. Lau singles. Brasso works a walk, and then Nate Lowe with a single to bring in Lau. So Lowe drives in Lau. That's a good combination, and Margot grounds out to end the inning. Bottom of the first, Glasnow gets Mullins to strike out. Alberto reaches on infield single, but then gets 2 more strikeouts, DJ Stewart and Mountcastle. So he ends up getting 3 strikeouts in the inning. Top of the second, a 1-2-3 for the Rays. Renfroe, Adames, and Perez retired. Bottom of the second, a leadoff single for Cisco. He gets the second on a wild pitch. Haynes walks. All of a sudden, a couple of men on. And then Ruiz singles to load the bases. And I believe that was the play where they decide not to send Cisco home from third. But then, and I mean, really, Tyler Glasnow, bases loaded, no outs. This is how he gets out of it. Although at the bottom of the order, the 8-9-1 hitters. Holiday strikes out. Velasquez strikes out. And the leadoff hitter, Mullins, flies out. So that's great to see Glasnow pitch that well in a big spot. Top of the third, Setsugo with a triple to right. Arozarena leaves him there, strikes out, and then Brandon Lau drives in Setsugo from third to make it 2-0. And then Brasso gets on a fielder's choice, and Nate Lowe grounds into a double play. Bottom of the third, relatively easy. It was just a walk from Mountcastle, but that's it. Gets a strikeout there of Stewart, and Cisco and Alberto were retired. Top of the fourth, not much doing, a walk for Renfroe, but Margot, Adames, Perez retired. Bottom of the fourth, it was led off by a Haynes 407-foot home run to left to make it 2-1. And then he struck out the next 3 batters. So it seems like every time Glasnow kind of gives up a play, it seems like he comes back really strong. Strikes out Ruiz, Holiday, and Velasquez. So the 7, 8, 9 hitters, but what can he do? Rays go down in order in the fifth. Setsugo, Arozarena, and Lau. Bottom of the fifth, another 1-2-3 for Glasnow, Mullins, Alberto, Stewart retired. Top of the sixth, though, not a lot going at this point, obviously in a 2-1 game. A Margot walk, but that's it. Bottom of the sixth, gets Mountcastle and Cisco So that was Drake on in the sixth inning in his second appearance, and the first since kind of that rough outing against the Washington Nationals. So he gets Mountcastle to ground out, Cisco to fly out, gives up a hit to Haynes, and then gets Ruiz retires him to end the sixth. So a clean inning for him. Top of the seventh, they get a little bit going. Adames strikes out. Michael Perez works a walk. Then Setsugo hits, so it's a couple of men on, 1 out. And then Arozarena grounds out, but does move the runners over second and third with 2 outs. Brandon Lau gets hit by a pitch. It was like a 2-0 count. 3 straight sliders, and they all ran inside to him for Fry. So I don't know. He gets taken out after that, but bases loaded, 2 outs, and Brasso in a big spot. A base hit would have, added another 2 runs on the lead, and he can just ground out against Fulmer. So you don't love to see that. Bottom of the seventh, Loop comes on, gets Holiday to strike out. Valleca in a pinch hit strikes out, and Severino lines out. So I also really like to see Loop come on strong. His average, the stats show that he pitches good to righties and lefties. So who knows where he comes in. In the top of the eighth, Nate Lowe works a walk. And then Margot, Renfroe, Adames retired. Bottom of the eighth, Nick Anderson comes on and gets the top of the order. I believe the 2, 3, and 4 hitters. Gets Mountcastle to fly out, and then also Stewart and Mountcastle to strike out. So he's always automatic. Another 1, 2, 3. It gets the top of the order and makes it easier for ultimately Ryan Sheriff to come on in the ninth in an easy save spot. Top of the ninth, a Perez walk, and then the next three men retired: Tsugo, Arozarena, and Lau. So in some regards, the top of the order did have some struggles. They left a lot of meat on the bone as well. And in the bottom of the ninth, Brett Phillips comes into play left field for the get the defense advantage there. They pinch at Iglesias. This was with Ryan Sheriff, the lefty on. Gets Iglesias to fly out. I believe he's a righty. Gets Hayes to ground out. And then Nunez pinch hits for Ruiz. Flies out to center. So not exactly the typical bottom of the order. But, I mean, really, if you're on the bench for the Orioles, are you really that great of a player anyway? So, I think really you want to talk about this game. The takeaways, Glasnow, good start, I guess. I was hoping he'd maybe go 6 or 7, but, he gets out of some jams, gets a lot of strikeouts. He gets 10 in just 5 innings. The pitch count wasn't as good. It was about a half percentage as far as batters faced to first pitch strike. So he's got to be better in that regard as well. But the fastball was there, 100 miles an hour. You like how he heads going into playoff time. That's really about it from there. The bullpen performed well as also. Nick Anderson, another automatic inning for him, of course, an ERA of 0.64. He's not going to get the triple zeros that he wanted because of the home run and extras against the Nats, but either way, he doesn't really care. It's a great season for him. Sheriff gets his first save as a Ray. A really good inning for Loop, a hold for him. And Drake, I think really good to see him come on in his second appearance off the injured list since early August because he's going to be a big part of the postseason bullpen. So that's all good. And then you want to talk offense. 2 for 7 runners in scoring position, 10 men left on base. Tsugo did okay in the leadoff experiment. Arozarena looks like he's not great. Lau is back. And then the rest of the order just had a night off. So we'll have to see how they'll do over the next couple of days against the Orioles. And then also on Monday night against the Mets. Those are the games that we'll miss. We will recap that Mets game, though. And really the Saturday and Sunday contest. So that's really about it. As we close the book on the Rays, not really a lot of score updates to tell you. I can tell you the Red Sox, bottom of the 11th, have the bases loaded with 2 outs in a 5-5 game. If they could just get on base, walk, hit, whatever, they would win and narrow the Rays' magic number down to just 4 to win the division. So we may have a final for you when we come back, but we're going to take a break for the final whatever of the show. We're going to talk Bucs, how they match up in Week 2 against the Panthers, and give you the rest of my NFL Week 2 picks against the spread. If you have any baseball thoughts that you didn't get to call in about earlier, I'll still take that. We have a line open at 877-566-1020. The Red Sox fly out, so this game is going to the 12th. That'll be on, I'm sure, through the night. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back.
Hey, sports fans. William's currently in the can, but he'll be right back. We're currently on a commercial break, so don't touch that dial. Remember, you can call us at 352-639-0036 or drop us a line on Twitter at WHBCStream to tell us what's on your mind. We want to talk sports. We want to get unruly. We want you to tell us what you think so we can argue. Anyway, when all that's said and done, please stay tuned for William's world-famous Around the XFL podcast and other projects that he's currently got in the works. Please visit WHBCStream.com, and thanks again for listening in.
HBC. And at 12:13, we are back on the William Haynes Show. One thing before we get into NFL football, I wanted to preview the contest that we'll miss. We'll miss the Saturday and Sunday contests against the Orioles because we're not on the air on weekends. And then we'll be on Monday night after the Mets game, but we're going to have to preview that because we won't be on again before. So we'll start with Saturday's contest later today, technically, as we're now into early Saturday morning here at 12:13. Is Charlie Morton at 1-2 and a 5.14 ERA against Jorge Lopez of the Orioles at 2-0 and a 5.23 ERA. Charlie Morton, his last time out against the Red Sox, goes 4 1/3 in a no decision for him. 3 earned runs on 6 hits, gives up a homer, no walks, which is good, 4 strikeouts, 77 pitches. So really the thing for him, he's still getting kind of built back up. You would think now, through 77 pitches last time out, I would probably imagine 90, 95. I would probably say his next start, he might be fully stretched out. So the hope would be that he's going to be efficient. We look to that start and see how he did as far as first pitch strikes. That was a game that the Red Sox won 6-3 at the Trop. He faces 19 men and threw first pitch strike to 11 of them. He threw 77 pitches, 55 for strikes. So looks like he's coming back pretty sharp. The curveball's got to be good. The fastball looks like it's as good as it's been this year since he's come back. So, that's good to see. And he has yet to face the Orioles this year. And then we look over to Jorge Lopez. His last time out against the Braves in a win, he goes 7 innings strong, an earned run on 5 hits. It was a home run. There was a home run, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts for him. So make of that what you will, not bad. And he has faced the Rays as well. Just an inning outing for him, though. I guess he was in the bullpen at that time. He goes against the Rays, an inning pitched, no earned runs on a hit. So not quite sure about that, but his last time out, he's pretty good, although he does have a 5.23 ERA. He's listed as a relief pitcher. Well, that's wrong. He goes 7 innings his last time out, so I guess he's stretched out. Now, a right-hander, so maybe they go heavy with the lefties. I would imagine it will be Yoshi Tsutsugo to lead off against him. And the only thing out of the bullpen I can tell you, I don't know how deep Morton is going to go. Maybe you get 5 innings out of him. Sleggers, who has not pitched in a few days, I would imagine him in a potential bulk spot. I was maybe predicting him today, but the situation didn't call for it. Sunday's contest, Ryan Yarbrough against John Means. Yarbrough, a 1-3 record and an ERA of 3.97. And John Means with a record of 1-3 and an ERA of 5.63. If you didn't know, we'll go back to tonight's game, Saturday night, 7:35, Rays and Orioles. But Sunday's game, first pitch at 1:05. Ryan Yarbrough, his last time out against the Nationals, he goes 5 2/3, an earned run on 5 hits, no walks, which is good, 5 strikeouts, 86 pitches. He pitched behind the opener, the blast to the past, back to 2018. Really, he's, I guess, going to be the starter. I don't know if that's officially announced, but I guess it's his turn in the rotation. They may have him go behind an opener. It was, let's see, I want to say it was Fairbanks, but I'm not exactly sure. We looked to the scorecard, and it was John Curtis who pitched an inning and a third in front of him. So Curtis would be ready. He closed the game last night, so he could be able to come on. I mentioned when he came behind an opener, I think they're kind of getting him ready to do that because that would be his role in the postseason. So maybe they'll stick with it. And he has yet to face the Orioles this season. For John Means, I know that we've seen him. We actually have not, so I messed that up. John Means, 1-3, a 5.63 ERA. His last time out against the Yankees, an earned run on 5 hits, a home run, a walk, 4 strikeouts. He's fully stretched out. He's got 6 innings his last couple times out, so he looks like he's going to challenge the Rays, a lefty. So, maybe they go with the righty. I would imagine Renfroe's going to be in the lineup somewhere, maybe to clean up. Who knows? So that does it for Sunday's contest. And on Monday night, in Citi Field against the Mets. First time the Rays have been there since 2018. First pitch at 7:10. Josh Fleming, that's kind of it's his turn in the rotation. Again, could be behind an opener. He's 3-0, 3.47 ERA against Jacob deGrom, I guess is what he's slated to be. 4-1, a 2.09 ERA. He left his last start with I think a groin tweak or it was a hammy, some sort of hammy issue, but I think that was just out of precaution. The Mets are going to need him if they have any dreams of making the playoffs, so I'd imagine he'd be on the bump on Monday night. Fleming's last time out came by in an opener, a limited start form or limited outing form, 3 2/3, no earned runs on just a hit, 1 walk, so 2 base runners over basically 4 innings, only 2 strikeouts though, through 54 pitches. So I don't know, I can't tell you. He's stretched out to go at least 75. They don't want to have him face the order the third time through. That's been made clear. So I have no idea what they're going to do. And with Jacob deGrom, if he's on the mound, obviously has not seen the Rays this year. His last time out, when he came out early, got beat around a little bit in Philly. 2 innings pitched, 3 earned runs, 4 hits. But if you want to go back to the start before that, and a win for him, he went 6 innings against the Blue Jays, an earned run on 3 hits. So that's kind of been his thing. He seems like he goes 6 or 7 innings just about every time out, giving up about a run. This is the best really that he's been in his career. He can go 100 pitches if he's healthy. The fastball, 100 miles an hour, got wicked movement, and it's got all kind of wipeout pitches. I guarantee you he makes the Rays look silly on Monday night if he does come on the mound. That'll be fun, though. We don't really ever get to see him do the Rays. So I don't know about getting the win. The hope, I guess, they can clinch the AL East as early as Sunday. So it looks like, who knows if that'll end up happening or not. The Yankees do take the lead in the top of the 12th, so I think they would have to get swept in order for it to be on Sunday. But, I think the Rays will probably be able to get it either way. So that about does it for, the Rays previews that we'll miss again on Monday night after the game 1 against the Mets. We'll be on the air to break down that and also the 2 contests over the weekend that we missed. So now closing the book on baseball officially, going into the NFL Week 2 predictions. I'm not exactly sure how we did in Game 1. I got to dig those picks up. I think we did okay. Week 1, no preseason. It was really hard to pick games. I think after a pretty good Week 1, we have an idea of what these teams are. On Thursday night, it was the Browns 35-30 over the Bengals. That's the only game in the books. The Browns at 1-1. The Bengals now at 0-2. But Joe Burrow looks like he's going to be pretty good. We'll save the Bucs game for last. So at 1:00 on Sunday, Giants at Bears. Both the Giants at 0-1. The Bears at 1-0. The Bears are a 5.5-point favorite. The Bears coming off of a comeback win in the fourth quarter in Detroit against a good Lions team. The Giants coming off of a really ugly loss, I think, at home against the Steelers. That's really a tough game to pick. I think the Giants, the offense is bad, but the Bears offense is bad too. I like the Giants defense. I didn't really like the Bears in Week 1. They kind of just got lucky, I feel like, late in the game. So I'm going to pick the Giants plus 5.5. Maybe they don't win, but, they cover the spread. An over-under of 42. I'm not going to pick over-unders. I have no idea the points. Also at 1:00, the 0-1 Falcons at the 0-1 Cowboys. The home team, Dallas, a 4-point favorite. I would lock that one up. Cowboys with a tough loss at the Rams, but I think the Los Angeles Rams are back. The Falcons looked horrible in a home loss against a good Seahawks team. I'll give them that. But I would probably have the Cowboys winning by a couple of touchdowns. So Dallas -4. Also at 1:00, the 0-1 Lions visiting the 1-0 Packers. Talk about 2 teams that could not be any different as far as Week 1 results. The Lions looked like they were headed to a really decisive Week 1 victory at home against the Bears. They blow it. They had a chance. They had the game won in the hands of DeAndre Swift in the end zone with like a couple seconds left, and he drops it. They would have won the game if he had caught it. So that's tough. Who knows how they'll respond. They're going to have to go to Lambeau and face a Packers team that absolutely destroyed the Vikings last week. Aaron Rodgers' revenge tour, put it in the books right now. Last week, he completes 32 passes, throws for 350 and 4 touchdowns. So against the Lions defense that it seems like he always dominates, especially in Lambeau, give me the Packers -6.5. They'll probably win by a touchdown or maybe 10 points. Also at 1 o'clock, the 1-0 Jaguars visiting the 1-0 Titans. The Jaguars with a nice win in the fourth quarter against the Colts at home. The Titans on the road in a really, really weird game in Denver on a late Monday night. So the Titans, a 7.5-point favorite. The line, I think, opened at like 9, and then it came down. I like the Jaguars not to win, but to keep it close. I think I'm going to get burned, but I will take the Jaguars to play good situational football. I don't think the Titans will be able to separate. A.J. Brown is out with a knee bruise, so they're going to be leaning on Derrick Henry, but to his credit, 31 carries, 116 yards. Talk about one of the few bell cows left at the running back position in the NFL. But I'm feeling interesting. I only live a couple of hours away from the stadium. I'm not a Jaguars fan by any means, but I guess I'm feeling the positive spirit. I'll take Jacksonville on the road plus 7.5. Also at 1 o'clock, the 0-1 Vikings on the road to play the 0-1 Colts. The home team, Indy, a 3-point favorite. The Colts, a really tough loss on the road, kind of slipped through their fingers, but a good week 1 performance from Phillip Rivers. And the Vikings just got absolutely dismantled by the Packers at home. So as far as momentum is concerned, they both aren't doing great in that department, but I think the Colts to take that one to get back on track, and I think the narrative around the Vikings will be a little bit of panic after an 0-2 start. So give me Indy to win and cover just the 3 points. Also at 1 o'clock, the 1-0 Bills going down south to Miami to play the 0-1 Dolphins. The road team, Buffalo, is a 5.5-point favorite. The Bills last week with a decisive win at home against the Jets. The Dolphins with a really weird loss in New England. Ryan Fitzpatrick didn't look great, but the defense did. I would imagine the game's going to be close, but the Bills, I picked them to win the AFC East this year. So I'm picking a lot of favorites this week, but we'll just have to wait and see. Give me Buffalo minus 5.5 there. Also at 1 o'clock, it's a sizable 1 o'clock slate this week. The 0-1 49ers on the road to play the 0-1 Jets. The Niners last week, a really tough loss. They kind of gave it away at the end against a good Cardinals team. I'll give them that. And the 0-1 Jets got pretty beat up by a Bills team. Le'Veon Bell looks like he's going to be out. So who knows? 7 points that's a lot, especially on the road for the Niners. I'm feeling frisky about the Jets. Give me the Jets plus 7. Maybe they don't win, but maybe it's a 4-point loss. Who knows? At 1 o'clock, this is one that I feel pretty strongly about, though. The 1-0 Rams at the 0-1 Eagles. The Eagles on the road go to D.C. and lose to the football team of Washington. They were up 17-0, I think, and they blow that lead, so they're not feeling great about themselves. So maybe kind of a revenge game for them. But the Rams are really good, I thought. Only a 3-point victory at home against the Cowboys to open up SoFi, but it looks like Sean McVay's back, man. Whatever kind of slump that offense was in last year, it seemed he's got all new plays drawn up, all kinds of screens, misdirections. He's always got plays, and they're a 1-point road underdog. So give me the Rams plus 1 point to win that game. I don't know by how much, but I can tell you they're going to cover the 1-point spread, so that would be a Rams win. Also at 1 o'clock, the Broncos at 0-1 on the road to play the Steelers, who are 1-0. The Broncos, tough loss at home against the Titans on Monday night, and the Steelers, another Monday night contestant. Pretty good win on the road in MetLife against the Giants. The Pittsburgh Steelers are a 7.5-point favorite. That's tough to call. I didn't like how the offense looked. The Giants' defense is not good either. They did look good, but they weren't supposed to be good this year. Ben Roethlisberger just looked a little bit rusty. I don't know. The Broncos, they don't have Von Miller. I didn't love Drew Lock last week for Denver, so I don't know. Give me the Steelers minus 7.5. I don't feel too great about it, though. We'll save the 1 o'clock Bucs Panthers for the end. At 4:05, the 1-0 Washington football team on the road to play the 1-0 Cardinals. That's going to be one of the more interesting games this week. Arizona is a 6.5-point home favorite. The Cardinals coming off of a nice win. I predicted they would win at San Francisco, and the football team of Washington. I don't know if we're gonna. Do we call them the football team? Do we call them Washington? Who knows? They had a comeback win at home against the Eagles. They're not great. The football team. They kind of the Eagles just gave that game away last week. So give me the Cardinals to start off 2-0 and win and cover that 6.5 points. Also, just letting you know, it was the Yankees winning in 12 over the Red Sox. So the Rays magic number to win the division will have to stay at 5. At 425, it's the 1-0 Chiefs at the 1-0 Chargers. Chiefs minus 8.5. I can tell you about this game. I can tell you the Chiefs decisive in Week 1 on Thursday night against the Texans. I can tell you the Chargers a 1-0 and a lucky win in Cincinnati. I think with the Chiefs, take the Chiefs minus anything. Minus 8.5. They're going to blow everybody out, you would imagine, this year. So give me the Chiefs again, minus 8.5. At 425, the Ravens at 1-0 on the road in Houston, playing the 0-1 Texans. It is the Ravens 7-point favorite. I don't think that's big enough, so I'm going to take the Ravens minus 7. The Ravens 38-6 over the Browns last week. The Texans got trounced by the Chiefs. I don't like the Texans this year, and the Ravens, one of the best teams in the AFC, if not the league. They're going to win by at least a couple touchdowns. And on Sunday night, 8:20 on NBC, the 1-0 Patriots cross country to the 1-0 Seattle Seahawks. The home team Seahawks are 3.5-point favorites. I think that's fair. You give the home team those points. I would imagine them being on the West Coast, especially in Washington State, more liberal over there as far as kind of the COVID restrictions. Probably no fans, so take away the 12th man advantage. So I think you give the Seahawks the nod. We don't really know what the Patriots are. They had a 20-11 win against Miami at home. That doesn't really mean anything. The new Cam Newton offense, we're going to get a good look at it against a Pete Carroll defense. Russell Wilson is great this year. It's been Bill Belichick gushing all over him in the press conferences this week. I'll take the Seahawks, who look better in Week 1, to win and cover the 3.5 points. And on Monday night, the Raiders opening up their stadium in Las Vegas at 1-0, host the 1-0 Saints. The Saints are a road 6-point favorite. That's funny, talking about picks against the spread in an NFL game being played in Las Vegas. I believe it's got to be the first game played in Vegas. We know about the Saints winning over the Bucs. That's fine. Drew Brees does not look good, but they're going to do stuff with Taysom Hill. They shut down Kamara and Michael Thomas, so that's hard to say. But the Raiders' defense is bad. They gave up, They gave up 30 points to the Panthers last week on the road, so talk about an over-under of 49. I would probably be going plus. I'm sure Drew Brees will have a resurgence. That'll be a fun game on Monday night on ESPN. That's a tough game to call. I'm going to take the home team, Las Vegas Raiders. They know how to play in Vegas. If there's any weird issues with the dryness of the air, who knows? It's indoors. I don't know. But give me the Raiders. John Gruden in the Death Star for the first time, plus 6. I'd imagine they'll win against the Saints as well. But that's also wishful thinking. Hopefully the Saints return back to 500. And finally, last but certainly not least, we have at 1 o'clock on Sunday, the 0-1 Panthers traveling down to Raymond James Stadium to play the 0-1 Tampa Bay Bucs. So battle of 0-1 teams. The Bucs are 8.5-point favorites. So how do you like that? An over-under of 47.5. Looking back at the Bucs, a really, really weird Week 1 loss. Brady did not look great. Even Bruce Arians was coming after him in the post game, and then everyone came after Bruce Arians for coming after Brady. All kinds of drama. The defense looked good, but gave up a lot of points to the Saints. I'd imagine they'll do a little bit better against the Panthers offense. I think Todd Bowles and this defense, they're great at shutting down playmakers. Again, they shut down Kamara, they shut down Michael Thomas, and made Breeze look pretty bad as well. So I'd imagine they'll take the same approach against the Panthers. I know they were good at shutting down McCaffrey last year, so I would imagine probably more of the same in that respect. So I don't know about low scoring. I would imagine it's going to be like 27-23, something like that. I guess if I'm predicting that, then Panthers plus the points, not to win, but to cover the 8.5. I think that's pretty sizable for a team that got beat up in Week 1 in the Bucs. We looked at what the Panthers did last week in a home loss, 34 30 to the Las Vegas Raiders. Teddy Bridgewater looked good in his debut, though. 22 of 34, 269 passing yards, so that's about 8 yards per attempt. A touchdown, no picks, only got sacked once. So, he looks good, but, he's going to be facing a pretty nasty Bucs defense. Very good against the run, and that's where Christian McCaffrey comes into play. In week 1, he had 23 carries for 97 yards. Bridgewater scrambled a couple of times, but McCaffrey is their running game, and a lot of respect their passing game, too. He had 3 catches for 38 yards. Receivers, Robbie Anderson, free agent addition. It was 6 catches, 114 yards, but a long of 75, just a long ball blown coverage play. So, who knows what to make of that. DJ Moore, a guy they've had in-house for a while, 4 catches, 54 yards. Curtis Samuel, 5 catches, 38 yards. So really not a lot going. I mean, they only throw for, when you score 30 points, you're thinking you're going to throw for more than 270 yards. So, I don't know. They're going to lean on McCaffrey. That's the game plan. Matt Rule, a college coach coming over from Baylor, a team that played, I would say, decently conservative for a Big 12 team. We're going to find out a lot about him. We'll see him again at some point this year. So, I like the Bucs to win, but give me the Panthers to cover the 8.5. Again, I would imagine 27 to 23. And again, that's 1 o'clock on Sunday afternoon. So that is all going to be fine and great. That's going to do it for the show. A good one, though. We talked about a Rays win. Didn't talk about Lightning, I forgot. But game 1 on Saturday night. That'll be fun to see. Get a good idea what that series will look like. The Stars getting a little bit of rest. So, a reverse of that Islander series, that'll be kind of the Lightning on their heels. We'll see how they respond to that. The Rays, a couple of games against the Orioles this weekend. Hopefully they'll take that. An interesting game potentially against the Grom that we'll have to talk about. So that's all good as well. Hopefully the Bucs do good, get back to 500. We'll see. We'll be on the air on Monday after the Rays game. And as always, we will talk to you then.
Sports Radio 101.9 FM and Sports Radio 66. The Fan.
HBC.